Definition of water. The definition of water, the clear liquid that has no color, taste, or smell that falls from clouds. As rain that falls rain flakes and that is used for drinking water. Two kinds of water, fresh water and salt water. The fresh water is water that has low salt content found in the rivers, lakes, and underground, dissolving and is used for drinking, agriculture, and industrial purposes. And salt water. Water is high salt content found ocean and seas. It is not sustainable for drinking or agriculture without desalination.
Surface of water. This is the water found at the surface of Earth, like lake, river, and fountain. It's a primary sources of water for drinking, irrigation, and recreation. River system. A river system including main river and all its smaller stream or tributaries. For example, Mississippi River system has many tributaries which into it. Groundwater. This is the water that's stored underground in soil and rock layer. It's a supply wall and spring providing significant source of drinking water.
Porosity. Porosity is the measure of how much space between particles in soil or rock is available to hold water. High porosity means more water can be stored. So, ang porosity ay ang puwang or space na humahawak ng tubig sa pagitan ng rock or soil. Halimbawa ay clay. Mababa ang porosity nito dahil maliit lamang ang space. Dahil sa maliit na space na yon, kakaunti lamang ang dumadaloy na tubig or dumadaloy pa ba na tubig or mabagal ang pagdaloy ng tubig. Dito sa larawan, sa example natin, sa letter A, meron tayong high porosity and sa letter B, meron tayong low porosity. Sa letter A, makikita natin na madaming puwang or space na pwedeng daluyan ng tubig kaya malaki ang porosity niya or high porosity. Sa letter B naman, kakaunti lang yung space kaya kakaunti lang din yung mabagal yung daloy ng tubig. Kaya siya low porosity. Permeability refers to the ability of a material to allow water to pass through it. Sand has high permeability, while clay has low permeability. And about clay, low yung permeability niya kasi hino-hold niya lang or mataas yung hinahawakan niya. Mataas yung paghawak niya sa tubig pero mabagal yung pagdaloy nito. So, here's the example. We have low pore spaces, unconnected pore spaces, and connected pore spaces. Sa no pore spaces, makikita natin na wala ditong kahit isang space so mahihirapang dumaloy ang mga tubig. Sa unconnected pore spaces naman, ay may kakaunting space at sa connected pore spaces naman ay makikita natin na malaki ang puwang nito. Kaya, malaki ang posibilidad na maraming nadaloy na tubig dito. Sa no-pore spaces, mababa yung permeability niya kasi walang nakakadaloy na tubig like clay. Like sa clay, tama. Hino-hold niya yung water kaya walang dadaloy na tubig. And mabagal siyang dadaloy dito dahil wala ditong puwang. Sa unconnected pore spaces naman, makakadaloy yung tubig, ngunit mabagal. And sa connected pore spaces naman, maaaring dumaloy yung tubig na mabilis at nang walang pumipigil dito. Ang wells po ay ang hukay o butas na ginawa sa lupa upang makakuha tayo ng tubig, langis o iba pang likido mula sa ilalim ng lupa. So, ang wells po ay karaniwang nilalagyan ng tubo upang madali tayong makakuha ng mga likido. So, meron tayong tatlong example dito. Ang balot, poso, at yung tubig na dumadaloy sa ating bahay, gaya ng gripo. Ito po ay water wells. Ito po yung tubig sa aquifer na dumadaloy papunta sa well dahil sa presyon. Sa mga manual o electric pumps, ang tubig ay hinahatak mula sa ilalim. Kaya tayo nakakakuha ng tubig mula sa balon, sa poso, o sa gripo. So, meron po tayong tatlong example dito na poso, balon, at saka gripo. So sa poso, gagamit tayo ng persa, yung gaganong-ganonin natin, syempre pump yun. Kaya lumalabas yung water dun sa poso. And sa wells naman po is yun nga na parang parang pasandok po natin siyang kukunin kaya tayo nakakakuha ng water. And sa gripo na nagmumula sa tangke o mula sa isang main supply line.
Water cycle is a continuous process by which water moves through Earth systems. Here's a breakdown of the steps depicted. 1. Evaporation. Evaporation is the water from oceans, lakes, and other water bodies gets heated by the sun and turns into water vapor rising into the atmosphere. So yung evaporation, ito yung prosesong yung tubig mula sa mga dagat, lawa at ilog ay nagiging singaw dahil sa init ng araw. Pangalawa, condensation. As water vapor rises, it cools and condenses to form clouds. This is when the vapor turns back into liquid droplets. So yun sa condensation, kapag ang singaw ng tubig ay umabot sa mas malamig na bahagi ng atmosphere, nagiging ulap ito. Dito, ang mga molekula ng tubig ay nagsasama-sama at nagiging droplets. Pangatlo, precipitation. Precipitation, when the clouds become heavy, the water falls back to the earth as rain, snow, sleet, or hail, depending on the temperature and other conditions. So sa precipitation, kapag ang mga ulap ay puno ng tubig, ang mga droplets ay bumabagsak sa lupa sa anyo ng ulan, niebe o yelo. Pang-apat, collection. Collection is the water collects in oceans, lakes, rivers, or infiltrates in the ground, eventually feeding back into larger bodies of water. Kung sa collection, ito yung ang tubig na bumabagsak sa lupa ay nagtat-gather sa mga lawa, ilog at dagat. Mula dito, ang siklo ay mauulit sa pamamagitan ng evaporation. Global water distribution. About 97% of Earth's water is saltwater, mainly in oceans. Only 3% is freshwater, and of that, 68% is in glaciers, 30% is underground, and less than 1% is in rivers and lakes. The image is a visual representation of the distribution of water on Earth. It uses a glass of water as an analogy to show the proportions of saline water and fresh water. Saline water or oceans. The image depicts a large glass of water spilled to the brim, representing the vast majority of Earth's water, which is salty and found in ocean. This is labeled as 97%. Fresh water. A small portion of the glass is left empty, representing the much smaller amount of fresh water on Earth. This is labeled as 3%. Breakdown of fresh water. The freshwater portion is further broken down into ice caps and glaciers, 68.7%. This is the largest portion of fresh water, highlighting the significant amount of water locked up in ice. Groundwater, 30.1%. This represents the water found underground, which is a vital source for many communities. Other, 0.9%. This category includes various sources of fresh water, such as atmospheric water vapor. Surface water, 0.3%. This is the smallest portion, representing the water found in lakes, swamps, and rivers. The image effectively communicates the relative scarcity of fresh water on Earth compared to the abundance of saline water. It also provides a visual breakdown of the different sources of fresh water, emphasizing the importance of managing and conserving this precious resource. Watershed. A watershed is the land area that channels rainfall and snowmelt into rivers, lakes, and streams. The Mississippi River watershed, for instance, drains water from over 31 U.S. states. The image illustrates the concept of a watershed, which is an area of land where all the water that falls on it drains to a common point, such as a river, lake, or ocean. Here's a breakdown of the image. Rainfall. A cloud is shown releasing rain, representing the source of water in the watershed. Overland flow. The rain flows over the land depicted by blue arrows towards lower elevations. Infiltration. Some of the rainwater soaks into the ground, represented by blue arrows going downwards, and becomes groundwater. Groundwater. The infiltrated water travels through the soil and rock layers, forming groundwater, which is shown as blue arrows flowing horizontally. River. The surface water eventually flows into a river, shown as a blue stream winding through the landscape. Underground rivers. The groundwater can also flow underground, forming underground rivers, which are depicted as blue arrows flowing horizontally below the surface. Forests and the watersheds. The image highlights the importance of forests in watersheds, showing trees and vegetation along the slopes. Forests play a crucial role in absorbing rainwater, preventing erosions, and filtering pollutants. Aquifers. An aquifer is a layer of rock or sediment that holds groundwater and allows it to flow. Aquifers provide water for wells and springs. The Ogallala Aquifer is one of the largest in the U.S. The image illustrates the concept of an aquifer, which is an underground layer of rock or soil that holds groundwater. Here's a breakdown of the image. Surface features. The image shows a landscape with a river, a lake, and surrounding vegetation, indicating the surface environment above the aquifer. Water table. The upper boundary of the saturated zone, where the groundwater level is represented by a dashed line and labeled as water table. Unconfined aquifer. The layer above the clay layer is labeled as unconfined aquifer. This type of aquifer is directly connected to the surface, allowing water to easily flow in and out. Confined aquifer. The layer below the clay layer is labeled as confined aquifer. This type of aquifer is sandwiched between two layers of impermeable rock or clay, preventing easy water flow. Artesian well. An artificial well is depicted, which is a well drilled into a confined aquifer where the water pressure is high enough to cause the water to rise to the surface without pumping. Bedrock. The base layer of the illustration is labeled as bedrock, representing the solid rock beneath the soil and aquifer layers. The recharge zone. This is the area where water can infiltrate the ground and replenish an aquifer. Protecting recharge zones is important to maintain groundwater levels. The image illustrates the process of water infiltration into the ground. Rain pond. The image shows a cloud raining on a hillside, representing the source of water. Surface runoff. Some of the rainwater flows over the surface, depicted by blue arrows, towards lower elevations. Infiltration. Infiltration is the majority of the rainwater soaks into the ground, represented by blue arrows going downwards through the soil layers. Groundwater. Groundwater is the infiltrated water travels through the soil and rock layers, forming groundwater, which is shown as blue arrows flowing horizontally. Tree roots. A tree with roots is shown, indicating how plants can absorb water from the soil. Puddles. Puddles is a small puddle of water is depicted, representing surface water accumulation. Impermeable layer. Impermeable layer is an impermeable layer is shown at the bottom, represented by a clay layer, preventing further water infiltration.